All right, hey folks, this is Ben from Appliance Factory, and today we're talking about ranges. First thing you want to consider if it's your first time buying a range ever, before you even go to the store, check out what kind of power source you have. So unless you have a strong preference for gas or electric, it's usually going to be cheaper and easier to use what you already have installed in your kitchen. Biggest thing you're going to look at first is what kind of burners you have on top. So cheapest option, entry level here, is going to be these coils. Something that you're going to be definitely familiar with if you've ever had an apartment. You know, there's nothing fancy about them. It's just a coil, then electric current runs through and it gets hot. Problem with these ones, you know, they do rattle, they're a little noisy. If something drips down into the cup here and burns on, it's hard to keep them clean, but it's not an expensive option and you can replace the cups and the coils fairly easily. It's a good one for things where if you think something's going to be hard on the range. Next option, you take a step up from there, is you do have your glass top options. These are very similar. You know, they take that same coil and actually just put a piece of glass over it typically. Underneath the rings here is actually going to be a very similar coil. Typically with these though, you do get options where you can actually start to add more burners. Typically your coil tops are only going to have 4 burners. So with the glass tops, you start to see sometimes 5 burners. You also see some variability in the size of them. So like this one right here, this is actually a variable size burner where it can actually either be 6, 9, or 12 inches depending on the setting you choose on the knob here. Advantages to the glass top is it's going to be easier to clean and it has a nicer look to it, but it is a little bit more fragile because this is glass. This is an induction range right here. An easy way to kind of tell these apart at the showroom is a lot of the inductions actually do say induction right on the top of them. With an induction range, you're actually going to have a system of magnets that actually are going to excite the molecules in your pan and actually turns the pan into the heat source. So it does heat up extra fast. So you're going to boil water a lot faster than most other types of heat sources. But what's really cool here too is because the pan is actually the heat source, there's going to be a little bit of heat transfer that gets through the cooktop, but once you remove the pan from the heat, this cooktop's going to be warm. It's not actually going to be hot, so it's a lot safer. There's less burn risk. It doesn't work with every pan, so basically a magnet has to be able to stick to your pan if it's going to work with an induction cooktop. To get around that, they do make pads that can go underneath your pans that actually do get hot, so if you have a favorite pan that's not magnetic, it's fine, but it's just an extra piece of equipment you have to have. The other issue that you run into with these ones is if you are someone who likes to pick your pans up a lot and move them around, you don't have any heat actually getting to the pan when it's removed from the cooktop. So like with gas, where if you want to pick it up and move it a little bit, you're still going to have that heat coming up into the bottom of the pan even though you're off of the surface. With induction, you do lose the heat when you remove the pan from the surface. Gas has been a favorite of home cooks and professionals for a long time because you have a finer control over the amount of heat that you are giving to your pan. So with most of your electric ranges, there are preset options, 1 through 9 typically, whereas on a gas range, they do have those on a lot of the knobs, but in the spaces in between, you actually can just control the height of the flame just visually, so you see how big that flame is, and it gives you a good idea of how much heat's getting to your pan and gives you an idea and a way to control the delicate spaces between the numbers. What you do like with gas as well is it gives you some different burner setups as well, where you can have these burners, which are kind of cool for a larger pan like a wok, so it heats the whole thing. You can also put one of these griddles over the top of it, and so that's going to give you a good option for pancakes, bacon, grilled cheeses, anything like that where a flat surface is going to be good. And then these season like a cast iron pan, so you don't have to worry about washing them as much. Con to a gas range, especially here at elevation, we're in Denver, the higher you get, flame actually obviously needs oxygen to work, so the higher in elevation you get, the less efficient your gas range is going to be. Once you get inside the range, something you're going to take a look at as well is what kind of element it has. So down at the bottom here is where the heating element of any of these ovens is going to be, and it's the heat source. So this one's hidden, so it's easy to clean if something spills. Your other option is going to be this one here, where it's not a hidden element and you can actually see the element itself sitting there. And why that's not as good is going to be if something does spill, it's a higher chance that it's going to get baked onto the bottom of the oven and be harder to clean off. A lot of these ovens, you know, are going to have self-cleaning options. That is an option that some people go with, but something to consider is that the self-clean is going to be harder on the appliance. Just keeping something at that high of a temperature for that long is really hard on the control boards and the internal mechanicals. And also it's going to require you to basically stink up your house for a few hours while it gets done. The other option that some of these have is a actual steam clean option. And so steam cleaning is nice where you can actually see this one has kind of a reservoir at the bottom where you can put a small amount of water in this, and it goes at a much lower temperature and just steams up the inside of the oven, and then you can wipe it down and clean it out. Convection has been around for a while, and it's a really cool technology that helps to heat up your oven faster and helps you to cook things faster. Basically, that fan is going to spin and blow the hot air across your food, move the air around inside the oven so that it distributes it more effectively, and really helps with getting the oven up to temperature faster, and also helps with crisping things like French fries, tater tots, things of that nature. When it comes to convection, there are a couple different options there as well that you'll want to be aware of. There's standard convection, which is just a fan, and then there's true or European convection, known by both, where there's actually a separate heating element near the fan that actually heats the air before it blows out instead of just moving the air around. And then now, what is kind of a newer feature in a lot of modern ranges is they're actually coming with air fry. So there's a couple of different ways that the air fry can actually be implemented. Sometimes it's from the back of the chamber like that, but to be a true air fry, usually it does actually have to come from the top of the oven and blow down onto the food. So biggest difference with air fry is it's a very similar thing to convection, but it's a specific algorithm where the fan actually spins a little faster to move the air, and it gets a little bit hotter than your typical convection. This one is really cool. It actually comes with a temperature probe that you can stab right into your food. This is an example of that. This is what you would actually put into the food. And as you can see, most of it's coated here in silicone, so it actually can stay in here while the oven's on, which is really helpful if you are trying to monitor the temperature while it's cooking. You see this one actually does come with an air fry tray as well. This is something that comes with some of the ranges, but you can actually buy it separately off of Amazon or from us, and it's really helpful even if you don't have air fry for just normal convection, because it allows the air to flow around the food. All of the ranges we've looked at so far are 30 inches wide, and that's actually going to be your standard size for most ranges. However, once you get up to the professional style ranges, you do get more sizing options. So these will actually come in sizes of 36 inches, 48 inches. There's even one from Thermador that goes all the way up to 60 inches. Nice thing with these bigger ranges is you do have more cooking surface. So holidays, large events, if you do entertain a lot, it gives you a lot more flexibility as far as cooking. You can actually get these where the side oven is completely separate and gives you even a better insulation than the built-in double ovens that you saw on the standard ranges. So truer temperatures, and on that 60-inch Thermador that I talked about, they actually have two full-size ovens next to each other, which is really cool. But that's your size options. They go all the way up to 60 inches, but for most people, 30 inches is standard. It's probably what your kitchen, what the cutout in your countertop is ready for. But this is an option if you did want that extra cooking space because you do entertain a lot. But these are obviously going to be more expensive. And if you wouldn't use the extra burners, it's probably not something necessary for most cooks. All right, folks, well, that's my overview of ranges for a first-time buyer. Obviously, those are standard features that are common across a lot of different models of range. So once you have it picked out of kind of a good idea of what you're looking for, make sure to stop into one of our Appliance Factory locations and work with one of our product specialists, and they can guide you through the more advanced features that are more brand specific, more niche, things that maybe aren't included on every range but that you might enjoy, and they can walk you through availability and what combination of features might be best for you. But until next time, please make sure to leave a comment if you have any questions or if you have any future videos that you'd like me to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel so that you can keep on top of everything that we're doing. But until next time, I'm Ben. Have a good one.